And hello again, everybody. It is time for the two-man game right here on Claves Online. I'm Bob Ramsey. That's my partner, Matt Rocchio. And it's it's intensity in the basketball world now between teams jockeying for position in the NBA to the Sweet 16 in college basketball and more. Rock, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Rammer. It just, every time we come on here, I just can't wait to talk about basketball because every time, whether it's, 4 days or 2 days or 3 days between our shows, just something happens in that time. If you're a basketball fan, you just can't help but get enough of it.
So let's start locally in St. Louis, and then we'll expand out. And the first thing is a mild surprise, and the way it happened is St. Louis University, and I use the term loosely. I was going to say redshirt, probably more technically, second year freshman Jordan Nesbitt, who is a native St. Louisan, has elected to put himself into the NBA draft. And Janez is so if he follows through, would be leaving St. Louis University. But it doesn't mean he's gone for sure, but it does open up a lot of options. Could he come back to SLU? Could he enter later a transfer portal, look around for other things? And if he wants to be a pro, if it's time for him to not be in school, they play professional basketball, literally, folks, all over the world. And I believe, and I'm sure he believes, that somebody somewhere would be willing to pay him to play basketball. I said before this season, college season began, that for any of you folks who are familiar with St. Louis University history, that he is the most or has the most talent of any player the Billikens have had since Larry Hughes. And I always caution to listen. I didn't say he was as good as Larry Hughes or the best player since Larry Hughes, but in his bag of tricks, in his collection of talents, he has the most of anybody we've seen. He can handle it. He can shoot it. He defends. He rebounds. He's a great athlete. Um, we didn't always see the production from him, Rock, but we saw glimpses of it this season.
And that's the important thing because the combination of the glimpses we saw with your talk about how they play basketball where they hand you a paycheck a lot of places in this world, and specifically the NBA pipeline has become a little bit more solidified in the ability to get drafted late in the second round or maybe even go undrafted and get a spot on a G League team, and then you're able to make some money. And there is a pipeline now to get to the NBA. Obviously, it was sped up a little bit this year because of the COVID protocols earlier this season. That's not always going to be there. But nonetheless, I think what that did was prove that this can be a useful thing for the NBA. I mean, it was already pretty much proven, but I mean, that was a great example of the jump that the NBA G League has made. And so maybe that thought process is there for Jordan Nesbitt, that he can go make a little bit of money, or he can get his name out there, and a scout's going to see him because it is kind of taking a little bit of a shot. Like you said, when we did get to see him, we saw everything you mentioned: scoring, shooting, handling the ball, passing, defense, rebounding, intensity, those kind of things. We saw every bit of it, but we rarely saw it all together and for long stretches of time. And so he's obviously banking on the fact that those little spurts will jump out on tape. He's correct; they will. But as always, you have to look at the gross numbers of he started every game, played 25 minutes, scored just under 9 points, but shot 39% from the field and shot 37% from deep and contributed about 4 rebounds and less than 2 assists. And so there's two different things that are obviously going to be, or there's something that's going to be really, his advantage and something that I think everyone's going to be able to kind of maybe take away from him. That doesn't mean he won't get drafted or good things won't happen to him. Like I said, that tape pops. Nonetheless, though, I do wonder if, just with how the NBA draft works right now, I would just put it at about I'm at about a 45% chance that he goes to the NBA draft, because just the ability to put your name in, get some really good information, and then return, pull back as long as you don't sign an agent, and then continue your college basketball career. Some people want to parse the wording that he used in his statement today. My biggest problem with that is that if I was him, or if I was a guy who was going to into the NBA, I would also probably word mine the same way, because I wouldn't want anybody in the NBA being able to, during a draft interview or something like that, being like, "Well, are you really committed to this?" I want them to think I'm full on into it. And so I think parsing his statement like that is probably to people just looking too much into it. Just take the fact that he's a 1-year starter, and he wasn't able, and he didn't get a chance to play more than 30 minutes per game. And I think you can probably gauge a pretty good guess on how he's handling this situation.
Yeah, and like I say, if I were going to try and rank what his options are, obviously, if he could get drafted, that'd be one. If he could get in the G League, that'd be two, and then playing overseas would be three. And in the short period of time that I was around him, I really liked him. A great, just a fun personality, very enjoyable to be around. But to say I know him would be, well, just not true. I didn't have enough time to be around him to where you really know somebody. But my guess is it's a long shot to say he's going to want to go back and play in college. That's my gut feel. And but certainly that option would be available to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's the thing is, even if he doesn't go to the NBA draft, there's a lot of different ways for him to continue his basketball career. We obviously, hope the best for him. And really, if he finds a place, whether it be overseas, and he gets minutes and he's able to be, the leading scorer on a team, heck, he's able to handle the ball and control parts of the offense, and he's able to succeed in that. Those kind of people find their way back to the NBA. The NBA has a way of getting those guys back, no matter where they end up playing, because talent will play out above all. And Jordan Nesbitt has that level of talent. There's no doubt.
One final thought on him from me, and that is, we're always thinking, go back to the NBA, get back. We've known lots of players who have played a long, long time, a decade or more, overseas, loved it, and made a ton of money. China, Australia, Italy, Spain, Greece. There's a lot of great leagues.
The one you haven't mentioned that maybe is the best example, we might be able to find some of our St. Louis guys to get Jordan in contact with Anthony Peeler, who's been playing for the same team in Germany for 17 years.
How about that?
And he loves it there. I think he played his first couple years in Israel in the Israeli league. He met his wife, and then when he was like 25 or 26, got his first shot with his German team, and he's played there for like 17 years. He's 42. He's playing his last season right now. That's a life that I don't think any of us would scoff at.
And then and take a look at just former Billikens, and you could almost pick any mid-major to major program and find guys. But look at Australia. Kevin Lish has become an Australian. He played for their Olympic team, for God's sake. He was a league MVP over there. He and Brian Conklin and Jordair Jed and Cody Ellis, who's a native, all have done great things over in Australia. So there's a lot of different ways to go. Find places, someplace you like. Dwayne Evans, who was a big part of the Majerus era success in Japan, and by reading his tweets and social media, loves it there. So there's a lot of ways to go. And just because you don't get to the NBA doesn't mean you don't have a great career or a failure. If you think that, you're just wrong.
Yeah, and now kind of looking at the bigger picture for St. Louis, we've done a little bit of scholarship math here on the show. This opens up one more, and I think this is right in line with when you think about Javonte returning, if that happens, and the three guys they got coming in the freshman class or transfers in Sincere Parker, Nick Kramer, and Kellen Thames. I think what you've been talking about, the backup, and now with Rashad Williams in the transfer portal as well, I think we're about guaranteed to see a veteran guard come in here as a backup, pairing a guard with Yuri Collins. I think that would be perfect. And then if you look at the breakdown of the roster, that would just, with the young wings coming in / veteran wings returning, the big men pairing you already got. It's a bummer without a guy like Jordan Nesbitt. You do lose some of that excitement for next year because you hope he was going to grow. But the idea now of getting in a veteran guard and guys like Kellen Thames having maybe some room to grow now in the wing, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and here's two challenges as I see them. What you really need is a guy who can give you 10 minutes a night as a very competent, solid, ball-handling point guard. But if you're that good, why do you want to come to a place you're only playing 10 minutes a night? It's a real conundrum because, and I'm being generous with the 10, you really only need a guy about 5 minutes a night. So I think finding that guy is going to be a challenge. And then what I would love to find is a true power forward, or, and this is a big if because I don't know what the Billiken staff thinks. If you think Traore is Basil Traore, because he's got the feet for it, could he be a more of a power forward and get a true backup center? Yeah. Basically replacing Linson. Or if I go back in history 10 or 12 years, think of a Brian Conklin, 6'8", 240, rebounder, defender. Boy, if you could get those two pieces. Having said that, the Billikens may not think that. They may think, no, we're a 4-out team. And the so-called 4-man or traditional power forward is not really necessary for us. And so then you're saying, okay, you got Yuri to run it. You got Franco, Okoro in the middle. Now you got 3 other spots and they're almost interchangeable. And I think, you're looking at Fred Thatch and TJ Hargrove and Gibson Jimerson and Sincere Parker. And who am I leaving out? But anyway, you got 4 or 5 guys there. I'm sorry.
TJ.
And TJ Hargrove, who probably projects out of that group. He and Fred Thatch as undersized 4 men because who are you going to guard? And so then you got Kramer as another 2-man. So a point guard and another true forward, I think, would be a perfect fit. So we'll see how that goes.
And to the forward point, I don't think we mentioned it on Tuesday. I think it happened early Wednesday or later after we got off the air on Tuesday. Andre Lorenzen also entered the transfer portal for St. Louis as well. So there's another potential spot right there for that forward spot that you were talking about.
I know I got to see a lot of Lorenzen in practice.
He can shoot.
And he's a legit 6'8" with long arms. Mm-hmm. I've got to think no worse than a mid-major for him, where he probably walks in and plays right away. Don't you?
Rammer, I got a feeling that next year you and I are going to be talking about a lot of Andre Lorenzen on some West Coast team that we're going to end up watching a lot randomly.
It's funny you said that. I was talking on radio in St. Louis today and talking about a mid-major, and I said, just look at a Santa Clara or somebody like that. I'm not saying he's going to Gonzaga or St. Mary's, but he could be a fit at St. Mary's.
Oh, God, he could be.
But one of those second tier, he could probably walk into almost anybody in the Ohio Valley and start right away, even on the upper echelon teams, and probably on many of the Missouri Valley Conference teams, and maybe even Mountain West. But just if AJ Green leaves Northern Iowa, how'd you like to replace him with a 6'8" shooter?
Right, man. That's a good point.
I would think there's going to be opportunities for Andre.
I got to ask this just because if we're so confident that he can slide into a mid-major on the West Coast and shoot pretty well, was there a missed opportunity for Travis Ford in St. Louis to incorporate him in maybe when the lineup got a little thin in late non-conference, early conference? Did they maybe miss a chance to get a guy minutes that could have maybe solidified his spot here, given them another look, and maybe kept him here for another year?
I would say maybe, but as the season wears on, coaches like to shrink their rotation, not grow it. And the couple of the very few times he got to play earlier in the year, you could tell he wasn't quite ready. In my view, I agreed. A little skittish, sort of deer in the headlights is not fair. But you could tell he just wasn't.
There's a comfortability factor when you have experience. I think it's the bottom line.
And so, but I really think a lot of him as a player, and I think he's going to do really well.
Yeah, I do as well. So let's move on to some basketball teams that are obviously going to be in action tonight. We have the Sweet 16. The first half of the Sweet 16, in fact, is taking place tonight. In fact, I think this is going to be the more fun of the two nights because some of my favorite teams in the entire tournament are
Me
playing.
too.
Obviously, you have Gonzaga, Arkansas. That's going to be a blast. We're big Gonzaga fans here. We don't hide it. You got Chet Holmgren. I mean, that team is just Drew Timme. Although his moving screens lately have been pissing me off because he's getting egregious with them. We can talk about that. And then Texas.
There's no question. Let's just start right
yeah,
there.
Go for it.
Let's start right there. That's one of the things that could upend Gonzaga in a game like tonight. Arkansas is one of the hottest teams in the country over the last month or so. They want to score too, and their athleticism could provide more problems than Gonzaga's seen recently. And if there's some foul trouble, Arkansas could do some damage. Here's the other thing. Both teams want to score. This could be just for pure entertainment value. Maybe not the way any given coach would want to see it, but it could be an absolute shootout tonight.
And I'd be completely okay with that. And then what I'm referring to, if people didn't get a chance to watch Gonzaga's their last round game against Memphis, as we're talking about a former Memphis Tiger, and we're going to be talking about some Memphis Grizzlies here in a little bit later. Drew Timme had a couple plays that were highlighted by the broadcast that were egregiously moving screens, where he's just literally walking into guys and just taking away the chance for them to defend it fairly. And so I hope, as much as I am a Gonzaga fan, I hope the refs are a little bit tighter on that whistle because I love the pick and roll. In fact, I think that picking and off-ball screening is my favorite part and one of my things that makes basketball so damn beautiful. And I hate when big men cheat it like that because it's unfair as all get out. It's cheap as hell, and it's so damn easy to call and make the game a little bit more fair. So I really hope that Gonzaga gets that call a little bit closer because this should be a classic, 86-82 shootout of a basketball game, and I can't wait.
Yeah, the other part of that is the flip of defending the pick and roll, and the thing that's became popular over the last, I don't know, dozen years, 15 years, the hard hedge, which also can get out of control and be pretty egregious as a foul. So clean those things up, and you should have a really pretty good game.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I honestly, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break. I'm not going to be switching from Arkansas and Gonzaga very much to Michigan-Villanova. I'm not saying it's not going to be a good game. It's just I can't lock into that game as much as I can. Texas Tech and Duke, which is and then Houston and Arizona. I mean, this is potentially the last game we're ever going to see Coach K behind the sidelines for Duke or anybody else. It's monumental and it's kind of crazy. And it hit me earlier today. It's like, oh man, this could be the last time. I mean, it's been coming the entire year. This is potentially the last time we see Coach K coach a game of basketball, and it's going to be against the best defensive team in the nation. He's got Paolo Banchero. He's got a bunch of NBA stars, kind of immovable rock, unmovable object. What breaks first? This is going to be a fascinating game in I guess, what is ostensibly game 3 of the night.
How does emotion play into it? Does it put too much pressure on the kids at Duke? Do they even care about it anymore? Or can it galvanize them against that staunch defense? Can it galvanize them and say, we're not going to lose for Krzyzewski tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that's going to galvanize them. And hey, also, guys like Paolo Banchero, it's his last college basketball game potentially as well. He's off to the NBA. He's trying to make a big impact as potentially the number 1 overall pick coming up in the draft. Showing out in the NCAA tournament still matters. In fact, it's Doug Ebert right now, I'd say, is the star of the tournament. So that podium, that one shining moment, center stage is ripe for the taking right now, and so that's a perfect time for Paolo Banchero. I don't think it's going to be him. In fact, if I had to pick anybody, I think I'd be rolling with Arizona as the team that I think is going to keep on rolling. That game that they played was, the games they've been playing lately, this entire tournament, they've looked incredible. A little bit of a slip up, but they put the foot down. That TCU game was a little bit weird, but Matheson, he right now, even more so than Banchero, more so than even Doug Ebert, unfortunately, Matheson right now is my player of the tournament, the guy that if he keeps this up and Arizona goes on a run, people are going to be lauding all over him. He's going to be the draft conversation is going to be him shooting
Yeah.
up from a mid-20s pick to a lottery pick. It's going to be that entire thing. He's incredible. I love stocky guards that can shoot it and take it to the rim, and that's going to be Houston's biggest problem in the night.
The thing is, it's funny. It's almost a pick 'em, and I think that shows that the line setters, the betters, and America experts really, really respect Texas Tech and their defense, because the last line I saw was Tech by 1.5 points. Now that's virtually a pick 'em, but that shows the respect people have for Tech.
Yeah, and I mean, Tech's. I've had Tech in that. That was one of the ones that I thought was guaranteed in the Elite Eight. That number one overall defense going up against that number one overall offense in Gonzaga. I thought that was a give me because again, huge. Glitchy, streaky offenses that hit it big. And consistent defenses are how you get through the tournament. And we saw it last year with Baylor. In fact, it's a great example. Baylor, great defensive team. Not only does that propel them through, but you talked about it as well when we were talking about Gonzaga. You play Gonzaga a little bit more physical, and that's how you get them off their game. We saw it from literally play number one. Baylor knocked them off their game completely in last year's championship game. Why am I blanking on who they play tonight? Not Houston, because Houston's playing Arizona. Can Arkansas, both red jerseys, and A's. Can Arkansas bump them off? And if they survive Arkansas and Texas Tech survives Duke, can Gonzaga kind of get through that physical play in the Elite Eight? I hope that's what we get. Unfortunately, I think this might be the last game we ever see Coach K coach. But I think the benefit will be seeing, I think, the best game in the tournament. And again, I think that Arizona is going to take down Houston. I like what I saw from Houston against the Illini, but I think that if that foul doesn't go that way, they don't make that comeback. I just think they're not as good as Arizona and Mathurin. I don't know why I keep calling him Matheson. I have it stuck in my head because I keep playing NHL 22 with the Senators. And they have a guy with that name, and I don't know why I'm playing NHL 22 with the Senators. That's a different problem that I have. Nonetheless, Mathurin for Arizona is going to lead them over Houston. Just a great, I mean, it's the Sweet 16. We always get a good slate, but I mean, I'm pretty excited about 3 or 4. If you have any thoughts on Michigan Villanova, I don't mean to be mean to Jay Wright or the Maize and Blue, but I'm just not as excited about this game as I am the other 3.
Very, very casual. Villanova 5-point favorite, and they should be, but of all the games tonight that could be considered an upset, I guess, well, Gonzaga's 9.5. I think that's too big. Gonzaga's 9.5 with Arkansas. Maybe that's just right, but it seems big. The 5 points. I would not be shocked if Michigan pulls the upset. I wouldn't bet them. I absolutely wouldn't bet them, but I think they're really hot right now, and I think they're playing the right way right now. And Villanova will be the challenge. I think if Michigan mentally can survive some Villanova runs, I think they can go with them. If they're still in it as we get 4 or 5 minutes into the second half, if they're still with them, I think Michigan is going to put the pressure on them, and then we'll see how it goes.
If Villanova wins this game, I'm gonna have to start watching the lines on their Elite Eight and Final Four games, because that they'll go from a team that I'm not paying enough attention to him, but it's Jay Wright. We know what he can do when he's got any sort of a team. They're kind of the silent assassin in this one. I can't wait for it. The big question, I think, is let's talk a little bit about Friday. Obviously, the other half of the Sweet 16, which we're not gonna get to talk about tomorrow. The big question there is going to be. Do you think St. Peter's can beat Purdue, be the first 15 seed ever to move to the Elite Eight? A very quick no. 12.5 is the line right now between those teams. I hope it happens, but I'm with you. Jaden Ivey's just too damn good.
Yeah, he's too good. They're too well coached. They're too deep. I think it ends here. It wouldn't bother me if St. Peter's won, but I just can't come up with a scenario by which they will.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Providence, Kansas is the second game of tomorrow. I'll say it right now. I don't want it to happen, but KU is going to win this one, and I think, honestly, the 7.5 is a great number for them in that game. I think that one, if that was anything above 5.5, I'm taking it. I think Kansas has got Providence's number this year pretty easily.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be easy. I really respect what Coach Cooley did with Providence this year. They were really good. Um, it feels to me like a game where Providence could wear down. That
Yeah.
just and not Kansas playing in a spectacular fashion, but just keep pounding and they just keep coming and they just keep coming. And I could see that it could be a relatively close game until late, and that's where I think the spread would come in.
So we get St. Peter's, we get Providence, and then we get two blue bloods playing against each other. Who wants that? North Carolina and UCLA. That's not even 1975 anymore, Rammer.
I'm not looking at that spread. What's that number? Do you
Two
have
and
it
a
in
half.
front of you?
Two and a half. UCLA, obviously the 4 seed favorite. So two and a
Jump
half.
the,
Two and a
take the
half for
Bruins.
UCLA.
Take the Bruins at 2.5 all day.
Really?
I think they're going to destroy North Carolina.
Ooh. Think a little bit. It was just kind of a hot shooting night. Takes down the top team in the nation, and you just can't get the momentum going.
I think I think I saw UCLA play Arizona twice, and they're almost as good, even though they split in the regular season. UCLA, when they're playing well, and that's always the thing. If you have an off night, it changes everything. That's why I don't bet. But I think UCLA is going to roll them. I really do.
Yep. Hey, it's Johnny Juzang time. I mean, we know this is we've seen him go absolutely scorched earth in a tournament right around this time before, and he's still leading that UCLA team. Experience usually helps you out in the tournament. That's been one of UCLA's problems over the last few years. They haven't had a lot of experience when they've gotten to the tournament, and so Johnny Juzang could probably be the spark that really gets them through. I'm with you on that one. I wasn't going to be so confident with a 2.5, but you're saying hammer it. I'm with you on this one. This is the one I'm really excited about tomorrow night. I wish it wasn't the late game. Nonetheless, Iowa State and Miami. The over/under. This is what I'm going to look at here. The over/under is 133. I say hammer the under on that one because I think this is a game where it's first to 65 wins, and I might be being generous.
Roll up your sleeves. What was the Sly Stallone arm wrestling movie?
Turn your hat. Turn your. I can't remember the name of the damn movie, but I can remember that he turns his hat backwards.
That's what's going to happen.
God, what is that movie? I gotta look that up. Damn it, Sly Stallone.
Over the Top.
Yes, Over the Top. That's what it is.
Practically unwatchable, yet we both remember the turning of the hat. But
that's a better reference.
I had said openly, of course, tree in the forest, nobody heard me, but I just didn't think Iowa State belonged in the tournament, and they just shut my mouth. And in a 1-year turnaround that I think is the best in college basketball history.
Yeah, 2-22. 2-22 now into the Sweet 16 with a pretty good shot of going all the way to the Elite Eight. That's one hell of a turnaround.
You could make arguments as this team grew with the season and in the Big 12. They played in the top half of that conference is tough, but even in losses, you could see things getting a little bit better. And so for a team that only won 2 games a year before to have to grind with Kansas and TCU and Baylor and Texas Tech. And you say, well, no wonder. And you say, well, are they really good enough? We're seeing that sort of steel hardened them. You know what I mean? Forged steel. And I think I kind of like the role they're on for Miami. Now, Miami, look at the job they've done defensively. If I told you this was going to be a 51-49 game, would you blink an eye?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
That's why you should hammer the 133 under.
Yep. No question.
Again, Vegas is smarter than me, but I can't figure that one out. By the way, as we finish up talking about the Sweet 16, that's next time we converge, obviously we'll be talking about a Final Four. It seems most of the ways we're going chalk here, so that should be fun to watch, but maybe a little bit anticlimactic if you're a big upset guy in the tournaments. I'm still hoping for St. Peter's. I'm not as down on them as Bob is. But anyhow, talking about.
Hey, let's move to the next topic. This is the topic. I got no answer for you.
All right.
What the hell is going on in Miami?
There you go. I have no idea. Apparently, Jimmy Butler was a little bit angry. Spoelstra joked in the press conference afterward that they were just trying to figure out the dinner order. I think it was probably a little bit more heated than that. They're having a rough game against a team that they shouldn't lose against, which is a beat-up Warrior squad, and I just think things kind of went over. The Heat have been playing really well over the last couple of weeks, so I'm not sure exactly what the issue is.
But he had an okay game. He had an okay game last night, right?
Yeah, he had a fine game last night, and so I'm not really sure what the impetus was. Jimmy Butler's, a hard-headed guy. We've heard the stories from his time in Minnesota, from his time late in Chicago, from his time his little bit there in Philadelphia. We heard he can be a contentious guy. I think the fact that Udonis Haslem is both a player and kind of a coach and kind of has a foot in each camp, I have a feeling probably sparked it. Him and Jimmy probably went back and forth, and then I think Spoelstra probably got a little ignited just because he's been there forever, and you're not gonna talk too much shit to Eric Spoelstra. I mean, he's got a lot of rings, and he's dealt with a lot of superstars before. So Spoelstra's not going to take anything from Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler, we know he's a stubborn SOB. He's gonna talk when he wants to.
You got a couple of you're in a timeout. You got a couple of guys bickering. You can let it go, all right. But at some point, I could see where a coach goes, "Hey, we're trying to win a game. That's enough."
Yeah.
And then somebody barks at him, says, "Wait a minute, I'm the coach here," and I can see how those things will happen when people get in the heat of the moment and aren't thinking straight.
Yeah, that's clearly what happened. And again, they shouldn't have lost. They shouldn't be losing games like that to a depleted Warriors squad. But
no,
I mean, the Heat aren't the team in the East that I expect to be having kind of these sideline, screaming matches right now. For me, that team is the Chicago Bulls. When we talked about the East standings completely changing from when we talked by the end of the year, I didn't think the Bulls would fall so precipitously the way they have. But really, since the turn of the new year, they've been a completely different team in about the worst possible way. They and the Heat have gone completely different ways in the standings. The Heat are still sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference, a game and a half ahead of the 76ers. The Bulls have fallen down 4.5 games behind them. So not a huge one, but nonetheless, we're talking about a fall from 1 to 5 when they were tied up there when we talked last time. And there's been injuries. They haven't had Lonzo Ball the entire time, but they've had DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine pretty much that entire stretch. And the defense hasn't reached the level that it was the first couple months of the season, and DeRozan's had just a little bit of slip in his percentages, and the problem with his game is if his percentage slips a little bit, his efficiency drops kind of exponentially along with it. And that's been a big problem with the Bulls right now. They need to stabilize their game a little bit.
With Miami, couple stumbles last two nights, the Bulls slipping out. I didn't think I'd see it at the top. You sort of caught it, but maybe not this way when we talked a couple of months ago. But now you've got 4 teams at the top within a game and a half of each other. 4 teams.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And
we
really,
thought the middle would flip, but the top is so tight, it could be any of those 4.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to me that one of them's the 76ers, who made a big move, obviously, to go get James Harden, and now it's Tyrese Maxey that's stepping up for them. And another one is the Boston Celtics, who didn't make any big moves, but just kind of let their plan cook, and it finally started breaking their way. And then you have the Bucks and the Heat, who have been building, obviously, championship-level rosters, and in one case a championship-winning roster for multiple seasons now. So it's just interesting to see the 2 different kinds of squads up there in the East. We're running a little long here today, so there's one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
And that's what's going on in the West, because we haven't talked a lot about the Phoenix Suns because they've been so damn good that there hasn't really been any controversy. But Chris Paul's returning tonight after missing 15 games, and what I saw across his 15-game stretch was a Devin Booker performance that solidified his MVP candidacy. Because when you are, and this has been a back and forth conversation with a lot of people in the NBA and with a lot of people inside my apartment, who is the MVP of the Phoenix Suns? And I've had the opinion that ever since the bubble, it has been Devin Booker. And even when Chris Paul got here last year and helped take them to a finals, it was still Devin Booker. And there was a lot of reasons people said I was wrong, and there was a lot of good reasons people said I was wrong. But I think this year has proven that Devin Booker is not only the most important player on the Suns, but he is an MVP candidate in the NBA. Since the new year, 29, 4, and 3. Over the last 15 games, it's 27, 6, and 5. When Chris Paul goes out, he takes more possessions, he gets more assists, his turnovers aren't jumping, his scoring comes down a little bit. And when Chris Paul's in the game and he doesn't have to take as much emphasis, his scoring goes up, his efficiency goes up, and yeah, his assists go down because he's not carrying the ball as much. The bottom line is no matter what role Devin Booker's put into, his numbers go up, he thrives, and the Suns keep winning games. Sounds a lot like an MVP candidate to me.
It sure does. And the NBA is about the stars. But Chris Paul was out, would you say 16 games?
I think it was 15.
In the last 10, the Grizzlies have gone 7-3. They've won 2 in a row and lost ground.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
That's how good Phoenix is.
Yep, that's a good way to put it. And and you know what? The Grizzlies last night just hit their 50-win mark. The Suns had the longest stretch of being the only 50-win team in the NBA in 30 years.
Wow.
That includes
Great
the
number.
72. That includes the 72-win Bulls and the 73-win Warriors. And obviously that stat to work, it means that the rest of the team isn't there. But the gap between the Suns and every other team in the NBA is bigger than the gap between the Bulls when they won 72 and the Warriors when they won 73. That's an incredible stat and number when you think about it, and Devin Booker's been a huge part of it. The Suns have been incredible. They played the Timberwolves last night. In fact, another team we talked about that was a great example of a team that the Timberwolves just can't solidify it. Karl Anthony Towns does something great, and then in the next game, DeAndre Ayton has his career-high 35 against him. So the Timberwolves, God, they bothered me. But it was a great way to watch a team that we talked about once in an aggravating way, to talk about a team that we don't talk about nearly enough for how great they have been this season. The Phoenix Suns are amazing. They play the best basketball in the NBA, and it shows up in the win column. And Devin Booker is the reason for that. And if he's not top 3 MVP alongside, I think it's probably Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and then Devin Booker if I had to rank my MVPs right now.
Very nice. Where's Ja Morant? Right, the next guy?
And I think he'd be 4th only because, kind of like a Chris Paul thing, but there hasn't been somebody like Devin Booker who's taken it all on him, which is Ja Morant got hurt and the Grizzlies kept winning. And so clearly he's very important to that team. But, with his numbers coming down, him not dominating games as much, him going out with an injury, I think it's reasonable that he kind of, falls down from, I think, top 3 to maybe just 4th.
So when we reconvene early in the week, we'll have a Final Four. We'll see if any of the NBA standings clear up. We'll see if there's any more bickering in Miami. And we'll get it all set. We'll recap the weekend through the Elite Eight. I know there's going to be some great games and some great stories.
If I had to guess, yes, no, yes.
Okay, there's the Matt Rocchio crystal ball.
Hey, I was right about Golden State getting the win in Miami. I told you. They stayed in Orlando the night before, and look what they did to Miami. They were locked in. Miami expected them to be hung over, and they were in for that game. I told you.
It was weird, though, wearing the Mickey Mouse ears. That was very strange. That's Matt Rocchio. I'm Bob Ramsey for the two-man game right here on Claibs Online.
St. Louis Acura is the only Acura dealer in the nation to win the Precision Team Award for 30 years. How do we do it? By making you, our customers, our #1 priority. As others increase their fees and take advantage of limited inventory, we keep our prices low because we remain committed to becoming better than ever and treating you as we want to be treated. We want you coming back and sending your friends and family to a veteran-owned, family-based business you can trust. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.